Hello, Thomas. Let's good people come in. We're gonna start here in a few minutes, so just sit back and relax. What's good, Andres? What's good, everybody? I just realized that I was talking for about a few seconds with the mute on, so that's always fun. Um, yeah, guys, welcome to another late IP video. If someone could tell me if the audio sounds okay, that would be greatly appreciated. Tonight, we're going to kind of go over an article that I had went over last time. It was in regards to the native population increasing by nearly 5 million people. I didn't see too many people covering this, and I know it is a year old. And there are some things I agreed with, and some things I didn't agree with, and just some questions overall with the article. So I thought it'd be good to just cover that a little bit. I might just end up reading all of it, but we will see what goes on. And yeah, welcome everybody that's came in so far. Tonight should get interesting. I have a special video that I think all of us might want to check out. It's of our dear friend Lance. So, and for those of you that don't know who that is, he's a TikToker, a Native American TikToker who followed a few of his videos, and then one yesterday or a couple days ago I just really did not agree with, and I suspect that you guys probably won't agree with the video either, but we'll save that for later. So let's get into the nitty gritty of it all here. I guess I'll read a couple comments. Last time I checked. Yeah, I mean, it's great to see the fast population. I think this article is specifically in the United States. It's a little bit different, but yeah, it is great to see a high and growing, prosperous population of Native people. So yeah, let me just get to that article again. This is shared by CNN, so I have my thoughts on CNN. A lot of the time I don't find them to be very accurate, or they like to go in, I wouldn't say too much detail, but just they exaggerate on certain things. So yeah, let's check it out. So we're gonna start here. And remember, guys, I went over this a little bit earlier in the last video, so if you don't want to hear this, that's cool. So we'll start out, why the jump of the Native American population may be one of the hardest to explain. So the Native American population grew to its largest size, over generations, fighting for an accurate census tally. The jump was surprisingly high, much more complicated. Censuses are often very hard to determine for the results, especially with the population of, I think, 330 million people in the United States. So not everything is completely accurate. Anyway, so it says here in 2020, the number of people identified as Native American and Alaska Native in a combination with another race was up to 9.7 million, which is up from 5.2 million in 2010. Now, I don't know about you, but that's quite a lot in a short period of time. I mean, it's great to see, but I wonder more about like who exactly is saying that they're Native, and if they're actually if they're connected to community, or if it might be one of these Cherokee princesses that we talk about. So it says here, the group was not exempt to an unprecedented growth of multiracial Americans across the country. So in the past decade, they had an 160% increase, which, as I said before, is really crazy. This is including mixed race families as well. The struggle Latinos faced during the racial self-identification. Again, and this particular point here is, something that the channel has talked about since its existence. The identity of who we are as Native people, as Latino can be of any group, either European or Black or Asian for that matter. And then this other part says that Americans wanting to embrace their heritage, even if they are not recognized as tribal members. And I think that's where it might get, a little dangerous because then again it kind of goes back to, well, is this someone that has like a Cherokee um, great grandmother, princess or something? Um, so obviously it's important to watch out for those types of people. And of course, the article obviously didn't bring in Wapos, but I think that's kind of an entirely different point, which we'll talk about later. Just going to check the comments here from my phone. Okay, but why is Alaska Native a separate thing? Yeah, it's a good question. In the latest U.S. Census, there were 10 million natives, 6 million. Yeah, like I said, I think earlier, quite a lot for the U.S. So we have this person here saying the numbers really do deflect the diversity that we're seeing today in the real world in the Indian country. So we're very pleased. So that's good, getting positive feedback about the growing population. But Robodu, I don't know how to pronounce that, it's French. And tribal, I think it's Robodu. And the tribal advocates say it's likely that the latest census data is an undercount that Native Americans, especially those living in reservations, will see those impacts. So I think it's good that it's an undercount, which means that there's a lot more that haven't been put in yet. So the population could be higher. She goes here and says there are ramifications of that decreased funding, decreased essential political representation, and inaccuracy in the data. Those consequences are real. And that's true. There could be people in this population that saw themselves as Native, but in reality had some like far off ancestor and they did their genealogy and that was the only like Native person. So that again, that could be dangerous because it goes back to like taking resources of people that do deserve these, like Native people from communities, obviously. And it's hard to watch out for that as well. So what's going on, Kylo? Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen you. After the Census Bureau reported that American Indians living on reservations and Alaska Natives were undercounted by approximately 4.9% in the 2010 survey, several groups, including the Native American Voters Alliance Education Project in New Mexico, launched efforts to achieve an accurate count. And I think that's good that it's in New Mexico, because if you look at the demographics of New Mexico, it's a majority, I think, Hispanic state. So that's a lot of people that you can really I think help connect to their indigenous roots and finding out more about their ancestry. The work of the New Mexico group led to the creation of a state coalition of tribes, tribal organizations, and other groups. But the COVID-19 pandemic posed a significant challenge to the ambitious plans. So as we can see, there's some ups and downs. And this here is a the Native American population grew to its highest levels. See, it's shot up. It's crazy. So many tribal lands and reservation residents rely on census takers to drop off materials at their front doors. So this kind of goes into like some detail as far as how this all goes, how the materials are delivered, and how it can be complicated for some people because a lot of natives and communities maybe live in really rural places, so it's hard to get this information. And of course, in here it says that indigenous census workers have kind of a mistrust of the U.S. government. Well, indigenous census workers, some tribal members, I mean, also. So, as Thomas said here in his comment, it's more people that are reconnecting. These are more like mixed race people that see themselves as Native. So here in the article, it shows race and ethnicity across the nation. It's kind of interesting. I think this is in New York City. This shows like where a lot of African Americans live. Hispanic, it says here, in red areas. And then white lives kind of over here in Manhattan. So Yeah. And we kind of covered this part more so in the last live. So again, it's like Latino people that, you know, obviously don't speak an indigenous language, but they know who they are. They know that they're native. Many, the woman here who was interviewed was from Guatemala. Um, and even though I think she said she doesn't speak her native language, she speaks Spanish now, it's clear that, she did come from that community. She was raised from that community in Guatemala for some time before coming to the United States. I think this was in Oakland, California. And then here it does say something a little bit negative, is that mixed race identity was denied by tribal nations, some say. So I'll read this quickly. Elena E. Roberts' great-great-grandmother was among the thousands of black women and men who once were held in bondage by a Chickasaw tribe and whose descendants grew to be mixed races settled in Oklahoma. So this kind of talks about like the mixed race people, those specifically that are African American and Native, and that some were, denied being accepted, which is also sad, I think. I wanted to come over here. Yeah. So about 61% of those who identified as American Indian and Alaskan Native population last year, or 5.9 million, were multiracial. So again, it goes back to like these mixed race people, seeing themselves as Native, for the first time, whether if that's through genealogy, ancestry, or just through, I don't want to call myself like an influencer, but people in social media, just bringing up some and highlighting some points of the indigenous identity, like who you are, and encouraging you to connect to your roots. So here's one point that I kind of wanted to disagree with. Let me just scroll down here. So identifying as Native American remains a complicated issue for many, Chavez says, because for most tribal communities, the right to belong and identify as a part of the community is something that is earned through participation and engagement. DNA and ancestry tests alone are not enough. So this is kind of a point that Juan and I would disagree with if he was here, because we believe that ancestry does in fact matter. I don't think it's right to deny someone their identity if it's clear that by appearance they are Native, even though they don't practice the culture. I mean, what other words would you use to describe someone like that? So yeah, had some ups and downs about this article, but overall it was good to see the Native population increased over time. So what did you guys think about the article? I thought it was pretty good. Minus, like I said, probably the ending. Yeah, and that's what I was happy to see. I was happy to see the population grow, because everyone knows like how reduced these Native populations, obviously in communities, have become over time. Rather if that's through government interference, just through some sort of external problem that could have been helped, but it wasn't. Yeah, that always is funny to me. I wish more people realized that it wasn't. Yeah, it makes you wonder why the census is cut. I mean, I like to believe most people are pretty how would I say, distrusting of the U.S. government. So it makes sense. And I won't get into that here tonight. Yeah, definitely. Obviously there's Afro-Indigenous people. Juan sees himself as Mediterranean native. Um, so yeah, there's people to put to. Yeah, I wouldn't know about, different states and what their rules are. I think Friedman is supposed to describe the type of, African Americans back in the um, times of slavery when they were finally free. I hope I'm right. I mean, ultimately, it is one's choice. Um, so this kind of connects with the other article. This was more recent in terms of what's been going on. As I said, Native communities have been hunted down to extinction by Latin American governments. That is Brazilian, or it's even Guatemalan for that matter, Uruguayan. All these governments have taken up arms against Native people to eliminate many tribes throughout the centuries. And I think this article here that I'm going to share will bring some of this to light. You find it here. I think it was on NPR. Man of the Whole. Shout out to Ancient Americas too for telling me this. I'm going to correct that volume. So, this talks about the indigenous Brazilian tribal member in the Amazon rainforest. He has passed away, and he was the last of his tribe, which is quite sad. Okay, so let's see here. The last member of a besieged indigenous tribe in Brazil has died, apparently of natural causes. Activists are holding up his legacy as a symbol of both the genocide and resilience of his people, calling for his land to be preserved as a reminder of both. And to those of you that aren't too familiar with Brazilian history, it's kind of similar to Argentina with the beef issue. Many, forests, indigenous land was taken over by the Brazilian government. Many forest areas, I should say, regions of the Amazon rainforest were taken out to, help with the growing non-native indigenous population, non-native Brazilian population. Because if we look at the population of Brazil today, it's like 200 million people, which is insane. Um, but yeah, so a lot of resources were used, and a lot of indigenous people were killed off by the government of Brazil or by farmers, those wanting to, have any sort of, how should I say? Well, I guess they believed that it was in their rights to have this land, so they did what they could to get rid of any indigenous people. So little is known about this man, whose death was announced over the weekend by FUNAI, Brazil's federal agency for indigenous affairs. He was the only inhabitant of the Tanaru indigenous territory in the western Amazon state of Rondônia. His ethnicity, language, and name remain a mystery, but his singularity and decades of isolation did gain him some broader recognition in and beyond Brazil. He earned a nickname, the Man of the Hole, because of the deep ditches he would dig, sometimes with sharp sticks inside, and could be seen chopping with a tree and an axe-like tool. So, my opinion on these people is, they deserve to be left alone. I mean, have they not gone through enough problems? Have their ancestors not gone through enough issues over these past centuries? But unfortunately, the president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, cares very little about indigenous people. And if we go through this article more, it gets to Bolsonaro and his thoughts on, indigenous rights and land. And he believes that he wants the Brazilian economy to grow. He wants to take care of the non-native Brazilian people. If he's going to do that, then he's going to require more resources. So, as it says here, um, invasions and illegal extractions of natural resources in Brazil's protected indigenous lands have tripled since Bolsonaro took office in 2019. According to a report released over the weekend by the Indigenous Missionary Council, the Christian advocacy group said 305 such incidents took place in 2021, compared to 109 in 2018. So it's quite a lot. And I think most people that have a functioning brain know that Bolsonaro is not a very good man. But, I hope that maybe he will not win in the upcoming election. So, yeah, those are the two articles I really wanted to get out and just talk about. Maybe I'll go over some comments real quick before we cover the final part. Yeah, they got rid of slavery in 1989. I'm going to show my face because, I don't know, so I would. And you have to wonder, why it took so long for Brazil to get rid of, slavery. I think it's just because, the location of where they're at, they're able to get continue on with slavery for so long. I mean, they're all the way out in the Amazon rainforest. That's when their government was far off in the eastern side of South America. Hey, thanks, Andre. Appreciate that. Andres, I should say. Yeah, I have a friend who I think she's indigenous of Brazil, and she just tells me she showed me a video, I should have shared in here, of these tractors just steamrolling over indigenous lands, and the government not caring. I think these were farmers, and they just ignored the rights and the land treaties of these communities. So again, this all stems down to what the channel stands for, and that is for you to be able to connect to your indigenous identity, something that I think is, again, Juan and I have both said, has been suppressed for centuries. So I think it's important to realize that for those that are on their path of reconnecting or detribalized or something of that nature, that there is more of us than what the news media says, what the history books say. Regardless of, if you don't practice culture, that's not your fault. So there's a lot of gatekeepers that like to say, just because you don't practice culture, you're not native. Well, you can't ignore the genetics and DNA that make up someone, that make up a native person. So we'll get into that later, or actually another time. So I guess this is troll number 1. What's up, Marquise? You're late for the trolling me, man. Don't worry. I'm about to roast one of your little friends soon. So don't worry about that. So how many of you guys know Modern Warrior? Some of you. So Again, as I said, there was a recent TikToker who has a pretty good following, like a few million people. And I don't know why he says these crazy things. I think it's just to get attention, but I think that this video deserves to be shown, to just show the insane and asinine sort of thoughts this person has on, black people being the original people of the Americas. I won't say anymore. I'll let the video speak for itself. Of course, again, I got to take care of that music. Okay. And just, be prepared, my friends, to not lose any of your brain cells. Hope you guys can hear this.
This is a great question, so pause and read. In 1976, Ivan von Sertima wrote a book titled They Came Before Columbus. He theorized that African visitors came to the Americas generations before Columbus and created civilization. This theory has been debunked and labeled as pseudo-history, which is the interpretation of the past by people who are not within the field and disregard any data that does not support their narrative. So how do I feel? I spent the past few days extensively researching this topic and have to agree with the experts. The Africans did not bring civilization to Turtle Island.
I mean, I would hope that he wouldn't agree with Ivan van Sertima.
Now that we have heard one side of the argument, the opposing side claims that the descendants of Africans are only in the Americas because of the transatlantic slave trade. I wholeheartedly disagree with this statement. By all standards of logic, considering that African kingdoms at that time were expert sailors, navigators, astronomers, mathematicians, and merchants, it is problematic and Eurocentric to only think that European countries were able to travel westward and make contact with the indigenous peoples of this land. And this is why I stand 10 toes down with this statement.
Okay, so this guy just goes straight up like Neo SJW, and this man, I think he tries to go to the insane limits of him trying to be culturally sensitive and doesn't want to face the facts that the type of ship making in terms of boats getting across the Atlantic simply did not exist for our friends in Africa in that time period. If they did, then they would have reached the Americas, but they didn't. It was Europe that developed these ships. That is a fact. I'm sorry that his feelings are hurt and his supporters' feelings are hurt that this is what happened, but you can't deny that this part of history, no matter how much you dislike it.
Indigenous peoples of these lands and Africans have been working together long before colonizers came to these shores. I would like to draw attention to the comment that I'm responding to. They have made the observation that there is a visceral, anti-Black response from the Native community in regards to this specific conversation. This sentiment arises when Afro-Indigenous people on this app are just simply trying to exist. Conversely, the support for Euro-Indigenous people trying to reconnect is always there. The anti-Blackness in the Native community is real. For simply making that comment and standing in solidarity with my Afro-Indigenous relatives, I've been called a race traitor. Is that not reminiscent of white abolitionists and white civil rights activists being called inward lovers? This dialogue is essential for our process of decolonization. Jade DeBrave said, People are not ready to have this conversation. I know I am. Are you? This is a great question,
No,
so pause and read. In 1976, Ivan von Sertima wrote a book titled
I'm not, Lance. Sorry to burst your bubble, my long-haired friend. So what did you guys think of that video of his TikTok? Pretty disturbing, am I right? Oh yeah, I should probably take that off. Crap. Yeah, which, like I said, I think he's trying to come from a good place, but ultimately it's no good, in my opinion. That was too insane. That was too radical. Yeah. I mean, it just has to be said that people like to bring about like the Mali Empire and how it was great and they built ships. But again, these ships were not sailing across the Atlantic. And if they did go out to the Atlantic, then they didn't reach the Americas. Again, there's no documented evidence of any of this. There's no credited scholars. There's no professors, to my knowledge, that do not support this insanity. And, originally in the beginning, I really didn't think much of this sort of thinking. But after recently, I've seen so many channels that support the, Black African people or the original indigenous people or something of that nature. It's kind of became problematic over time. Strange that there would be some form of evidence like DNA. Yeah, but there isn't. So it's him getting upset because of what happened, but it's in the past. So me and Juan met through a Facebook native group long ago. It was almost, oh my gosh, yeah, almost 2 years ago. So there's two other things that I wanted to bring up. So if Lance does support this sort of thinking, these insane Afrocentric ideologies, then that means that he probably supports this insanity too. So these are what these Wabos do, is that they take these pictures of Native American kids and then they do this insane thing where they change the skin pigmentation, the color, to make it seem like there were Black African people here before Indigenous people, or with Indigenous people. It doesn't matter. They're both, fake. And this is another picture of this child. Just credit to Decolonized Buffalo for telling me about this. So yeah, this is what they do. This is what our dear friend Lance associates with. He associates with these people that do these sorts of things. This is what these Aboriginal channels promote. Yeah, it is disgusting. You know what's more disgusting is the fact that we have native people that support their insanity, like Lance. And he said that there needs to be a conversation about it. There doesn't need to be any conversation about it. Like nothing at all. It's stupid. So yeah, I was just reading some comments. Hope you guys like the gifts. It's just kind of, what I thought when I watched Lance's video. I'm going to kick this guy. Goodbye. Did I kick the wrong person again? No, I didn't. I think I've also seen an Afrocentric page on Facebook that's tried to Africanize Desi and Australian. Yeah, I'm sure you have seen them. They're pretty crazy. Yeah, I don't know who Wesley was, but I kicked him out. So yeah, there's the two articles and the video that I wanted to show you. Now you all get to see the insanity of Lance today. And I heard that he runs a YouTube channel, so maybe he'll see the video. You know what? If Lance is watching right now, screw it. I'll send the link. Because I see that there's like 24 people in here. So give anyone like a minute. If you're like a supporter of Lance or you support these crazy ideologies, come on over. Mostly if you're Lance, though. So yeah, I think the articles obviously show a lot of progress over time. There's obviously quite a lot of people that support, reconnecting to your native roots and, how you should do that in whatever way that might be. So, there should be a lot more progress to come. When you see more media outlets opening up, you see more of these accounts and profiles that push for, seeing yourself as native. Hence, this is what the channel stood for since its creation. Lance is woke. That's too bad. I never got into the woke stuff. It always just seemed really fake to me. Lance is whitewashed. Judging by that video, it's just crazy how sensitive people can be for something like that. And I've seen his other videos too. When I searched his name in YouTube, I saw like a bunch of people talking very negatively about him. So I'm sure this isn't the first time if he does see this video, so probably won't. Yeah, I see that. I see his videos. All right, so it's 10:18, and I got like maybe 2 minutes left. So if anyone had any questions about the video, about the meetup that Juan and I had, feel free to put them in the chat. Just now I'm gonna try and head out a little bit early. Those of you that are in the chat, be sure to leave a like if you can. They do help the channel out. Or leave comments of your thoughts. Yeah, it was in very bad taste, that video. I mean, sometimes I just wonder if he really doesn't believe that and he's just saying it, for attention. I don't know. So yeah, guys, we got like less than a minute. I'm gonna sign out. So yeah, it was very surprising to see that from him. I'll try to have him back on a video. I actually wish I would have had him in this video. But yeah, got like 20 seconds left. Again, thanks to everybody that came on. Really appreciate it. Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, like I said, guys, I'm going to head out now. It's been 50 minutes. I wanted to keep the time under an hour. I want to say thank you to everyone that's watched. Really appreciate it. Again, leave likes, comments, or whatever. Until next time, I'll see y'all later. Adios.